human sexuality but don't know how to finally purge those feelings? Well, have I got the product for you? Yes, just do what I did and watch Agent Aika and you'll never want to have sex or even so much as look at a human female ever again. And don't worry, ladies, it'll do the same for you too. After watching this 7-episode series, you'll be drier than an Iowa dirt farm to the last day of your miserable lives. Order now! Good golly, Miss Molly, I have not watched something so absolutely horrid like this in a good long time. Okay, yeah, sure, there are worse shows out there, sure. Certainly more clumsy and less interesting, but this one has the gall, the unmitigated gall, to have decent art and an attempt at a plotline while being little more than just a really boring porn. Calling it porn is giving it too much credit, too, because it's more like just a random collection of fan service than anything else. I don't go in for porn, but if I could just watch somebody get railed in this, I could at least cross it off of the shit I'm able to review list. But there's budget to it. There's effort. There's animation that's actually pretty good in this. If you're gonna make fan servicey trash, just make garbage and don't waste resources trying to make it impressive. And this is by the guy who did Project Aika, which may not exactly be haute couture, but at least it's funny and it didn't take itself really seriously. This is just bad. It's stupid, it squanders whatever decent elements it may have, and just ends up being a really weird waste of time with no particular tone. Alright, opening salvo out of the way. Let's look at what we've got going on here. We've got Rion and Aika, a pair of salvagers in a world gone to shit. All the available landmass has been flooded, and I'm getting flashbacks to Gargantua on the Vengaparglia's planet already. So that means that everyone is basically running around on floating islands and stuff. But more than that, it also means that everybody is wearing skirts that are so short that there's no way it'd actually cover anything from your waist down. Oh, but don't you worry, apparently in the post-apocalypse, the first fucking thing they salvaged was the factory that made the exact make of panties that the director likes buying out of vending machines. So here's the thing, when you're making a series about a world that is significantly hotter than the one we're living in, it makes a certain sort of sense that people would wear less modest clothing than we're accustomed to. Shorts, tank tops, swimsuits, that sort of thing. That makes sense. But the outfits here are completely covering from the waist up, and the skirts make micro-minis look downright puritanical. Costuming is, as you may imagine, pretty goddamn important. When you're just making characters wear things that you find sexy without an overall aesthetic, then you're just making pretty little things to stare at. And it becomes obvious rather quickly. This looks like a normal anime, which was just sort of alright, and then ran through a filter of what I can only assume to be some sort of Pervotron program.
Pervotron activated. Analyzing story. Inserting panty shots. Error. Inserting panty shots. Error. Inserting panty shots. Error. Inserting panty shots.
To be honest, the first thing I thought about this was, crap, how am I going to get footage from this thing? Because it's not just enough to show panties, they just get as naked as can be. The second episode is actually called Naked Mission, and it makes me wonder what kind of people would actually get their jollies off to this. Like, are these the kind of people that you can smell from a mile away and look like sentient lumps of Funyuns? What man, woman, or otherwise says to themselves on a Saturday night in their most vulnerable moments, "Oh goody, it's time to watch Aika and have a good old time"? If they were watching Cutie Honey, I could at least understand that, because Cutie Honey is funny and goofy and has a bit of fan service to round it out. This is not funny, nor is it goofy. It's actually played mostly straight, which I think is what has me the most confused and concerned. When they sat down to make this, was there some sort of fight between the director and the staff? Did Perfbot crash the production and steal the show? It may just be that I have some odd expectations for what you should or shouldn't do if you're going to make a dumb fan service show, because I cannot think of a situation where fan service has ever made a show better. And it's just constant. I've been closer to more cooter in this show than most OBGYNs are in a week. And you know the amount of times that I was like, ooh, that's hot? 0. So I suppose it's worth mentioning that there is actually a plot to all this, but it's kind of hard to remember. It's particularly odd to think that there is an involved plot here, and that there's actually a whole lot of production quality behind it too, particularly in the action scenes and the hardware they're using. There's a mad scientist bent on wiping out humanity to regenerate the Earth and repopulate the DNA bank, but, you know, it's kind of hard to pay attention to all this when I'm getting camel toe right in my face. Completely unrelated to anything, Aika also happens to have superpowers, because sure, why not? There's something resembling a story in here, and it seems to have been a bloody accident. See, while I was thinking that this whole business might have been an accident or some sort of compromise to get the show made, director Katsuhiro Nishijima is actually the kind of idiot who wanted to get it made precisely like this. That means wildly out of place panty shots, nudity, obnoxious costuming, and complete tonal dissonance were all meant to be here. This was all planned. All this work, all this animation, and what it could have been replaced by is just this. 7 episodes of upskirts and uselessly well-produced animation. It's almost infuriating to think that this show has the quality it does, and yet it exists in the state that it does. I'm just baffled, because it had the potential to be a good story, or at least an amusing little sci-fi diversion, but it can't go for more than a few minutes without showing somebody's panties. It completely kills any narrative tension. And what's worse, Nishijima loves pulling this weird blend of actually impressive action with this fetishistic obsession with panties. Nachika Blitz Tactics is something that he did as well, and it suffers from the exact same thing. Basically, my problem boils down to this. This show is a bunch of panty shots stuffed haphazardly into an interesting premise, and it fails on all counts because the two elements refuse to gel together. It's not fan service, that's the whole affair. And you know the worst part? It has a live action episode and 2 sequel OVAs. Who is funding this travesty? But at the end of the day, I'm sure there is an audience for this show, and I'm happy that I am not a part of it. I'm actually wondering if this was originally intended as some sort of aversion therapy for people who keep looking up skirts. But you know, all things considered, I should be thankful for this. If it had been made this year, they'd all look like they were 12 years old and it'd take place in a high school.